Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be installing the Piranha Toothbar from BXpanded onto our Massey Ferguson subcompact tractor. I'll show you how we install it, and then stay tuned because near the end of the video we'll go out and we'll give it a test run, digging up some brush and some small trees we have in the back of the property. So let's get started. So first thing out of the box is just to grab a couple of wrenches here and take off the bolts and washers that are pre-installed on the Piranha Toothbar during shipping. Just make sure you save all the washers because you're going to need them for the later part of the install. So here I'm installing and doing a dry fit of the toothbar. This is a 47¼ inch toothbar. I measured it all per BXpanded's instructions. The good news here is you can see the overall length of the toothbar is really absolutely perfect. Lines up perfect with the lip of the bucket. The only issue you really have though is when you look at it, you can still see there's a gap, probably a 1/4 inch at least on each side. If I had to order this again, I would probably go back and order a 47½. 47 3/4 might have fit, but it would have been tight. But that's okay. I think we can make this one work. So now I'm just going to take a mallet here and try to get it seated. Make sure it's on the bucket and lined up really well. So next step here is just to take a Sharpie and come in here and mark the oval holes on both sides. And that way I know where to drill. So once you get that done, just pull off the toolbar and set it aside. Then pull out the instruction manual, and inside the instruction manual is a white piece of paper. There's 2 circles drawn on that little piece of paper, and what you have to do is cut around the circles and then peel the circles off the backing. They have a sticky side to them with a backing on it, so peel the circles off the backing. Once you get the backing off, then you're going to take those stickers and use those to mark where you're going to drill the holes on the side of your bucket. And you want these about 1/8 of an inch from the back of the oval that you drew. That way if your bucket wears, you still got room to adjust the toothbar on the bucket. Alright, so I finally got the backing off the second sticker here, so I'll put it over here on the right side. So we get these stickers all in place. Then our next step then is going to be to take a punch and a hammer, and then what we'll do is we'll line the punch up with the center markings on these circles that they provided, just as you see here. Take and hit that a couple of times good with a hammer. Give you a good spot here to start your drilling. If you don't do this, then what's going to happen is your drill is going to slide around on you and you're probably not going to get your hole centered. So make sure you do this step. If you don't have a little punch like this, go pick you one up at the hardware store. It's definitely worth having. It's going to save you a lot of heartache down the road. Alright, so now here I am. I'm going to go in right where we made the little divot here. Take a small drill bit and just going to drill this all the way through the bucket from the inside to the out. Just a couple of pointers here. One is try to drill straight as you can, and then also make sure that you're putting a little bit of oil on your drill bit so you don't run your drill bit here, because you're going to need to drill one small hole on each side. So now I'm coming back here and I'm going to install into my drill a 3/4 inch step bit, which is what they recommend you drill the bucket here with. So basically I've got it plugged into my drill here, and then what I'll do is I'll drill a hole on both sides. Again, make sure you're using plenty of oil here so you don't burn up your bit. So drilling the holes went pretty easy, a lot easier than I expected. So now it's just a matter of putting the tooth bar back on, lining it up with the edges of the bucket, making sure it's seated down good on the lip of the bucket. Here I'm using a rubber mallet and a board here to make sure it's seated down in there good and tight. And it's just a matter of putting the bolts on. So the bolts are relatively short, so what I ended up having to do here was to get a C-clamp to get the second bolt on. I ended up having to tighten down the mounting bracket over to the side of the bucket, tight enough that I could get the bolt through, the lock washer on, and the second nut on. This is probably because, like I said earlier, mine was about 1/4 of an inch too short on both sides. Probably would have been better if it was a little bit tighter, but all we really needed here was just to get the bolts started good. And then what I did was I made sure the tooth bar was centered properly and seated, and then we tightened down the bolts evenly on both sides. That all went relatively smoothly. So there's the final product right there. It looks good. So let's take her outside and see what it can do. Well, I'll move back to the back of our property where we got a line of small saplings. There's some bigger trees in here too, but I don't plan to take those out. But anyway, there's small saplings, there's some briars and underbrush. So my plan was to go back here and use the Piranha Toothbar to see how much of this I could clean up. Overall, I will say that this is hard clay here, and the Piranha Toothbar does dig better into the clay than using no toothbar at all, which I guess is sort of to be expected. It will chop off a lot of the smaller saplings, 3/4 inch or below. It'll chop those off pretty well at ground level. Just didn't work as well as I thought it would on the 1-inch saplings as far as getting down under them and getting the roots up. But a lot of that, again, could have to do with the fact I'm working in some pretty heavy clay soil here. And a lot of videos I've seen online, people seem to be working in a lot softer, sandy soil. The other big thing I think it really excelled at was reaching up in there and grabbing some of the briars. I don't know how well it's going to show up here on the video, but using the tooth bar to go in and grab a bunch of the briars, pull them back out, and then push them up into a pile. It really worked well for making things up into a pile. Clearly, in this area with some of these bigger saplings, if we want to get those out, I'm going to have to go with the backhoe. So I'll put that in another video as I come back in. That way you can see the comparison of how the Piranha works versus the backhoe. So I'm going to speed this up now and let you watch a little bit of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to an area where we have a little bit softer soil. And there's some brush in there, and it works a little better on that. Alright, so here I've moved up into a different area. This area has a lot softer soil, and also the brush is smaller and the saplings are smaller in this area. And the Piranha Toothbar does a much better job on here in this area. You can actually get under it, can rip some of the bushes out by the roots, and then drag them back out. So it does a much better job here with the smaller stuff, which is sort of to be expected, and probably with the horsepower tractor that I have here, that's probably about the best I'm going to get. If I want to go to anything bigger, I'm convinced now I'm going to have to use the backhoe to clean out the larger items. So I'll let you watch me work on this area here for just a minute or two. So as you can see here, I am making a little bit more progress here in this softer soil, so I want to keep working at it. You know, so far I've been at this probably about 10 minutes in this area and made pretty good headway. So I think it's going to work out pretty good. Overall, I'm happy with the Piranha Toothbar. Wish it would have done a little bit better, but considering, you know, what it's made for and the type of soil conditions I have and the size of tractor I have, it does a pretty good job. Next up will be installation of the BXpanded thumb for the backhoe, and that's a device that's used to help you pick up items with your backhoe. So I'll be posting that up soon, so be sure and subscribe and click the little bell icon so you'll get notified of new videos when they come out. Thanks for watching.